Pod or whatever, and then this one and the What the Fork.
Well, I've written over 250 articles in my life. One day I decided to count. But like Dave Hickey, the legendary art critic, I haven't saved most of my stuff. So there will probably never be an anthology. But that's all right. Because, I don't know. This is going to sound bad, and I hope it doesn't turn people off from reading any of this stuff, but I kind of feel like my journalism is cheap. And the reason, I don't mean like no disrespect to the subjects I interview or anything, and I'm not trying to say I don't try with the writing, because I do, but it's not the same level of trying as I would put into like a poem or a fictional short story or even an essay or something I'm writing for Storytellers Night. It's not the same. Like, I don't know. There's something about journalism. It kind of feels vocational. In a way, so I'm not putting my soul into it. Sure. Yeah. I hope I'm not just sounding like a total like hack when I say that. But it's true. And that's why I haven't saved a lot of it, because I'm like,
I guess, all of my writing, I've done, I guess there are blog posts that are out there that I used to do all the time. And then
blog posts.
So those live on forever.
I guess I have old ones out there too that I haven't logged into. Like old blogs, like on LiveJournal.
Oh, yeah.
I just got an alert. I was like, what the hell? That still exists?
Apparently. But yeah, everything else that I hang on to is all poetry and fiction stuff that I've written.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, which one gets the most... has the most soul in it?
What
kind of, not format, but what genre that you're writing for do you put the most soul into?
I don't think that there's a difference between the two.
Really?
Yeah, not for me. When I do write fiction, I feel like that's the most me in there, probably.
Okay.
'Cause I definitely have a voice in that. I think that with poetry, I can get a little more abstract and a little bit more out of it. I do, in both mediums, I like, I prefer a stream of consciousness sort of thing. I don't outline at all for fiction either. I just kind of write until I feel like it's done. And then I'll go back and I'll edit some, but I don't plan what I'm going to write ahead of time, other than having, again, I guess it's kind of like the improvisational stuff. I kind of have a loose idea of what I want to do in my head. And there's been, I don't know, between all of this stuff and regular work and all the reading that I've had to do, I just have not had the space in my head to write. And I finally wrote something pretty recently, and it just, I don't know, it's new territory because I'm going to have to struggle with it. I wrote the bones of it, and it doesn't convey what I wanted it to, which is something new. Usually if I have the idea and the intention, I'll just write from start to finish, and it pretty much does what I want it to.
Wow.
And this is a little bit of a miss for me, so I'm going to have to see if I can wrestle with it some.
My process is a little bit different, but it's kind of similar because I almost never outline either. I can't remember who it was, but I just read a great quote from some woman writer that I admire a lot, either Margaret Atwood or Joan Didion, I don't remember, but this woman was saying, when I sit down to write a story, I have the whole thing in my head, and I work like that very much so. I haven't written fiction for a while, but this is true with my personal essays too. Like anything that could fit in the category of memoir that I've written, I had the whole thing in my head. It was just about sitting down at the keyboard and getting it out. And like you said, I'll go back later and I will edit. But I've hardly ever even tried to just sit down not knowing where it's going to go and let the writing take me there. That seems very difficult to me.
It's why I think that I end up having an affinity for the poetry on demand thing. Is because it
forces you to do that.
You don't have time to think about it. Yeah, no, you just. I mean, some people end up taking the time. Like I know people that will do it, that will write things out longhand first, and then they'll type them up, and so they can kind of go through at least one pass at editing. But I just put a piece of paper in the typewriter and start going. And, you know, so there'll be some X's in there maybe because I wanted to do something a little bit different. But I find that when it's like being dropped into a situation where you have to create something, and just, you know, whatever roadblocks you would throw in your own way normally, you don't have the time to put up because you've got somebody waiting right there for you to give
for
them
the
something.
product.
Yeah.
Wow. So aside from occasionally like taking a photo of that poem and then maybe posting it on Instagram, is there any other way that you save those?
So when I take the photos, if I like it later, still, like if I go back and still think there might be something there, then I'll type it up on the computer.
I see. So it's not always just given away, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's been a little while
cool.
since I've gone through and done that. It's terrible. I haven't sent anything out in forever. As
far as submissions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Trying to gear up to go back through the one manuscript I have done and prep that to go get submitted again. Because, I just need to get some sort of momentum with it.
Oh.
I think it might have been phone. Possibly.
When I first walked into your apartment, remember I was saying I was wishing that we had the luxury of not having to work.
Yeah.
Because then I have this fantasy that I would just dedicate all that time to writing or revising and editing my manuscripts. But then I also know myself so well that I'm not disciplined.
Yeah.
So I would probably just drink martinis all day.
I know that if I had the time, I would do it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have all of these scraps of ideas that I've been basically for the last 2 years that
Hoarding?
I haven't I don't even know where they all are at this point. I would have to start by going through and finding all of the different, some of them I'll put down as notes in my phone. Some of them I'll just write on a scrap of paper or in a journal, and some of them connect. So I would just have to like go through and start doing that. But it's just a matter of having the time. So at this point, if I were to decide I couldn't do any of this anymore and I just dropped that, so all I had was my day job, or the better situation, if I were able to quit my day job and just do this stuff, that would afford me enough time.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then I could get through some of that. Yeah.
That's my fantasy, but I'm afraid personally I lack the structure and discipline. Although I guess I did work as a freelancer for a while and I didn't starve, so maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
I know I could do it. I have to take myself out of the house most of the time, though.
To work?
I do much better if I have, if I go someplace and sit and work.
That is a brand new thing for me that I only started doing like just in the last year. I used to strictly work at home in my office, and I was convinced anything outside of that would be too much of a distraction. But I don't have a big, nice desktop computer anymore, which to me, this is luxury. Like what you're looking at with the giant screen. Yeah. To me, this is the most comfortable way to work, but I only have a laptop these days. So I've had to, and I have shoddy Wi-Fi in my little desktop.
Oh, sure.
I've had to take that laptop, and I've been traveling like AF. So I have to take it and just sit wherever I can sit and make a little space for myself, and then just sort of channel whatever I'm doing into the laptop. It doesn't feel like the best tool for what I'm doing. But anyway,
it
that's
has
new.
Sometimes for some reason there are too many distractions around. I have all the records. I can be playing stuff. I can do, I'll get lost in some sort of, I don't know, Google search hole or something. And if for some reason, that
could happen anywhere, couldn't it?
It could, but for some reason, if I have I'll be like, okay, I'm going to be out for the next 2 hours. I'm going to be sitting in a bar, sitting in a coffee shop, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And for some reason, that gives me the discipline to just work on something. Sometimes it can be distracting. Yesterday, I was sitting in a place, and I couldn't help but overhear the conversation of these two just like racist, misogynist assholes, just saying all this wrong-minded shit, and I'm like, I can't. Some of this I just can't tune out. I tried really hard, and eventually they left, so that was great. But Yeah, it can, but then sometimes too, I do like, I have taken bits of overheard conversation and weaved that into something too. So I kind of like that aspect of having an ear out, just kind of like, for some.
Well, that's the writer as observer, right? That's where we get a lot of our material. And if we have a lot of humanity, is that what I'm trying to go for? It is by observing people, and then I can connect that with my reporting, But it also reminds me of this quote from Gertrude Stein, and it is, the poet look sees, but it's like the poet look / backslash sees. But if you say it fast, it sounds like the poet looksies. And it's true, though. It's like you are there to observe, and you put these little glimpses into your poetry or your short story. And that's the truth of humanity. I think that's what people connect to and can bite into. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got me thinking about Tarantino and his process and how, this guy studies film. He loves all of it, like many different genres, and he gets in. And if there's anything about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that might even annoy me just a little bit, it's that he's like, hey, I'm the world's film nerd, and let me show you what I know. Fanboy, which he's done in other movies too, where you're like, we get it, you know about martial arts movies, right? We get it, the guy that's gonna help Rick pick up his career again has his own film studio where he watches things on actual film. Yeah, we get it. We get it. Celluloid is highly flammable, put that in a movie. But where was I going with that? Oh, to take real events that happened in history and use that as his backdrop. I really like that. Like I was saying a minute ago, I like it being set in 1969, but to me, with Rick and Cliff, he's built very convincing characters, I think. Like, they fit into that time, in my mind. And all of my mind, because I'm not that old. Like, I didn't live then and I don't remember, but everything I have is a sort of an amalgam of whatever pop culture stuff that refers to the late 60s. I've built this backdrop, but those characters, to me, are so very believable. I don't know. So I appreciated that. But I also was like, how did he get this idea? And then I made another connection to some of his other recent movies. I feel like lately he likes to rewrite history, but he likes to reimagine it so that maybe, who you expected to win doesn't win. Yeah.
Sure.
Or maybe we get a chance to fight back against evil, the evils of the world. Because I definitely see that in Inglourious Bastards. Right. And Django is kind of a revenge film in a way, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Death Proof. Did you ever see Death Proof?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second half of Death Proof is, Yeah. So I'm like, wow, I get it. I see what you're doing, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. I don't know. He's somebody, like, I like his films a lot. I think that he can be kind of a problematic filmmaker in just how much of his stuff is... is based on his knowledge of film. Yeah. And
is that too distracting?
It can be. Like I can lose myself in one of his films. Like I said, I think he's a great filmmaker. He's just there's something about how much he wants to show me that takes a little bit away from it for me. Yeah. So
I hope I'm not like that as a teacher. And actually, that's an interesting point. It's why I stopped taking poetry classes.
Oh, yeah?
Because we were peeling back the layers of the onion too much. Yeah. And there became a point where I was like, I don't want to know what goes in the sausage. I don't want to know, I just want poetry to be magical. I feel like I've brought this up before on our podcast. Probably. I don't want to know all the rules. Like, sure, explain to me.
Well, that's why I did have one professor that was like, you need to understand what the conventions are. I'm paraphrasing. This is not a direct quote, obviously, but you need to understand what the conventions and rules are so that you can ignore them. And like,
but once you know, how can you ever ignore? It's there already.
Well, you can, because she always drilled in that you're not to write to suit a form, but you're to make a form suit what you're writing. and if that involves